ladies and gentlemen, I am your news and podcast director, JonChristopher Collins, coming to you from Evangel University here at KECC 98.1 Muse FM. It's the 20th of September, Friday, 2019. That's hard to believe. It's almost 2020 graduation year. It's 12:32 p.m. Central Standard Time. Joining me is a great friend and communications professional extraordinaire, Victoria Guerra. Victoria, how are you today?
I am doing well, JC. Thanks for that introduction.
You're quite welcome.
Oh my goodness. Very nice and thoughtful of you. Like you said, I am Victoria Guerra. I am a senior here at Evangel. I am studying communication studies with TV and film in there as well, or broadcasting and film. And yeah, it's been, I guess I've gone to kind of speaking along the terms of what our conversation is going to be about today. Gone to 4 spiritual emphasis weeks here at Evangel, and they have all been, very interesting, and I think we learned from them and stuff like that. So yeah, but good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, I do have a point to the podcast, and Victoria clearly already articulated that very well, better than I could at this point, because my mind is all over the place. But I want to get into spiritual life here at Evangel, what that looks like. A little bit of your testimony, your background. By the way, guys, all testimonies are a work in progress. Mine, just 4 years ago, was not as inspiring as it is for me to listen to at this point now. So I want to encourage everybody, because I plan to interview many more people down the road about this topic. I want to encourage everyone listening to this, don't sell yourself short. Get out there, make your testimony heard, because it's really not you or I that are writing our testimony, is it? It's God.
So, yeah.
And so if he's writing your testimony and you think it's boring, well, oh well.
Oh.
No, but I'm kidding. But hey, be encouraged. What God starts in you, he will finish. I want everyone to know that. If you're listening to this podcast and you're like, man, I'd really like to do something like this, come to KECC. We'd love to talk to you. Or someone in the comm department will, whether it's myself or Victoria or Dr. Pace or whoever. Anyway, let's get down into your testimony. Let's talk about what that looks like for you. What is your church or religious tradition? And obviously you're a Christian.
Yeah. So kind of to go like just a little bit in this, and I'm going to go a little with for those of you students at Evangel that are listening, and for those that are listening and not really familiar, we have some of those courses that we take, New Testament, Old Testament,
right.
Central Christianity. And another course is Pentecost. So I'm currently in that class, and we're kind of going through that right now. So it's kind of relevant that we're talking about that. But a little bit of kind of just my, I guess you can call it kind of like a history or timeline of kind of just my spiritual journey, and including my testimony and all that. I am one of those people that I try not to sell myself short about it, but I know it's God's, he's working through me. It's not necessarily mine, but just kind of how he's worked in my life. So I don't want to say that it's boring, but it's kind of your typical, I've kind of grown up in the church, and I say that kind of with air quotes because I don't have like...
You couldn't see that, by the way.
Yeah, that's why I'm letting them know, but it's kind of in the churches in the sense of I don't remember not believing. I've got, gone to church growing up and all that. I don't have parents or family that work in the church as far as pastors or anything like that, so it's never been like I'm always at the church.
Right.
But I have been, Sundays growing up was kind of like a thing, and kind of to bounce off of that, interesting enough, so growing up, we went to this church, and it was a Spanish-speaking church.
Okay.
So what it consumed of was...
You speak Spanish, by the way.
Yes, I do. Side note, I do speak Spanish. But growing up, it was more of like... So the main service was Spanish, or spoken in Spanish, and then Sunday school, so all the children's ministry, student ministry, all that was all in English. Some of the classes, depending on who the teacher was, would kind of throw in some some Spanish. So it might be kind of what we say Spanglish. So that's Spanish and English. Majority of it being in English, but every once in a while they might throw in some Spanish in it, just because I remember one of my Sunday school teachers, her first language was Spanish, so some words might be difficult to translate. So she'll go back to, oh, da-da-da, in the beginning, Father created, blah, 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 and then might throw in a Spanish word here and there or something like that. But anyways, back to that. So it was kind of just that, and growing up, I didn't necessarily, Spanish is not my first language. It is a learned language. So for me and my brother, who is a couple years younger than me, we would go to those services, but then attending the main service was kind of difficult for us to understand, just because we weren't fluent in Spanish.
Right.
So being able to kind of translate it in our heads and kind of get our own was a little hard for us to do. And so growing up, it was fine, but then my parents kind of realized, like, hey, our children aren't probably getting the most spiritually fed that they need because of that language barrier. And as a kid, you're kind of like, yeah, I love Jesus, woohoo, yeah, I go to, Sunday, you just wake up and go to church. That was the thing to do, right? But for me, it was kind of like, okay, yeah. And me being the older one, I kind of started to realize, hey, like, I know Jesus and I believe in Jesus, I love Jesus, but like, where else is he working out in my life besides on those Sundays or Wednesday nights, And so...
And how old were you when you think you started thinking that way?
Oh, I would probably say somewhere kind of in like later elementary,
okay,
middle school area.
Cool.
And definitely in the middle school area, I started kind of, because it was like, I don't know, it was kind of like middle school, and you have those friends. I went to public school all my entire life, so I had those friends who believed, who didn't believe, and as middle school, you don't really talk about Jesus that much, at least in public school, because A, the teachers aren't talking to you about it, they can't talk to you about it,
right.
And B, you kind of go through that kind of phase where you want to be a part of the world, but you struggle because you're a believer and you're not of this world too. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so growing up, I was kind of had that struggle of like, where do I find that, like, how that example, like, how can I be a light,
right,
but also not be consumed by, things of this world. Anywho. So we kind of went through that. So my family and I, we kind of figured like, hey, let's start looking for a new church. And so we started going on a journey of looking for a new church. And during that time, it was kind of, it was easier for us to say like, oh, we'll visit a church one week and then another one the next week.
I want to ask you real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
The church you were going to prior to the change, what kind of church was that?
Like denomination-wise?
Yes.
Assemblies of God.
Assemblies of God.
Mm-hmm.
So you've always been Assemblies of God?
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Okay, carry on.
Yeah. So we never really like chimed in on a specific denomination.
Sure.
It was more, at least for me personally, it's about the relationship with Christ that you have.
Yes.
So I don't want to say like, oh, I'm AG or oh, I'm this
exactly.
or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, if I do have to, I would say more AG side. Anywho, so we kind of were looking, and in that time, that's kind of where I would say I kind of got a little bit distant and not like went away.
Sure.
But it was just like I wasn't plugged in like a youth or anything like that. So it was kind of just like, oh, we're visiting a church here and there, and kind of figuring out how this is going to go, our flow, finding a good church. We went to a church that we kind of thought like, okay, this might be it, but it wasn't really what we were looking for, but we also knew we needed a church, so we kind of would just go and kind of have that. And then one week, this was I think 8th grade year, maybe my 8th grade year. I think it was actually my freshman year in high school, and my uncle at the time, who wasn't really going to church or anything like that, he had invited us to a church that he had gone to for about a week or two. And he said, hey, there's this church down the street from us. We live down the street from my uncle.
Oh,
and
cool.
he was like, it's down the street from us. Why don't you come and join us? They're doing some type of movie series thing. So it was like, yeah, we'll go check it out and we'll just see what movies. And the way the pastor had set it up is each week it's like a 5-week series, and they kind of just talk about movies, whatever, not I'm getting into very specific details of this journey, but
Cool.
This is kind of where we're getting to. So sorry to take you guys on this long trail, but ways, we decided to attend, and we have not stopped attending since then.
Okay.
So it was like every week. Wow, we just loved it. I got plugged into the youth group there.
Cool.
And it was amazing. Like the people that I met in the youth, my youth leaders, some volunteers.
Do you want to plug your church?
I'll keep that. Yeah.
There you go.
No.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to share that either.
I'm like, I'll go ahead and just keep that
Yeah,
to myself.
you never know what kind of people are listening to this.
Exactly.
Now, back to, you were talking about your period of searching. How long was that time searching before your uncle came and said, hey, join me at my church?
I would say maybe about a year and a half, 2 years. So it was a longer period of finding that church.
Uh-huh.
And I think with that is the church we had been attending previously was a church that my mom had been attending for a while. So it was like,
Cool.
Trying to find that right church and kind of like where we live just fits our needs. I don't know if any of you guys have ever gone looking for a church, but that could be a long process sometimes too. And like I said, in there we would there was a couple of churches that we went to for months, so it was kind of like, we might find it, but we decided, okay, no. Anyways, sorry, excuse me. So that's where at this current church I'm attending, that's where I kind of really began to have that more intentional relationship with Christ, where I started taking it more seriously and more a part of. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I'm going to sneeze. So I'm trying not to sneeze into the microphone. But kind of took it more along the terms of my own relationship and kind of discovering Jesus myself. So getting plugged in with the youth group and started serving and all this stuff. And so that's kind of a little bit of my testimony, I guess, in the sense of just trying to find where my relationship fits in with Christ and making it my own.
That's
and
good.
Kind
I
of
was just
making
going to say that.
Yeah, kind of making it your own and being more
own.
intentional. And it's not necessarily your parents' relationship, but it's yours, and it's very, it went through a process, and then I got baptized at that church and got more plugged in, like I said, and haven't looked back. And then now I'm here in college and, I still think, like you said, so, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Like you said, with kind of, I'm so sorry, I lost my train of thought. But like you said, your testimony is constantly, being made.
Yes.
In that too, I think that's absolutely true. Where I am, I don't know, 6 years later. Yeah. And I'm still, I could still tell you more things that's going on in my life that I can see God using, and I know it's a part of my testimony as well. So That's pretty cool. That's kind of it's got a kind of like a long beginning, and then boom, it's like bam, there it is.
I think one of the interesting things, and I'm glad you brought, and I know you have someplace to be, so I'll try to wrap up here. The interesting thing, at least for myself, is I know that I really did not start to take things seriously. I mean, I would like to think I've always, like you said, I love Jesus, I know Jesus, I have a relationship with Jesus, I believe in Jesus. But I think the points where I really started, I was dissatisfied with going to church. I tell people I did not like going into youth group and seeing people that treated the Bible like a textbook and not like God's word.
Yeah, it gets confusing when you go in, and because there's people everywhere, but especially when you go in and you're serious about it. Yeah. But then you see other people that you're in the same room with them and you're talking about Jesus, but they may not be as serious. I don't want to say that, but that's where it can get a little difficult too. Is like, okay, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No. And that's the thing, like, for me, we talk about God's word being living and active. If we believe that, we need to act like that. And I'm not saying, the stereotypical don't cuss, don't drink, don't have sex before marriage, although those are good things. What I'm saying is it brings such life change. I want to go into a church and be excited about living. And sometimes I go in and I'm like, we just don't act like it's real. And so that really bothered me for the longest time. Junior year of high school, senior year of high school, I really started, like you said, making it my own. The past 3 years, going on 4 now here at Evangel, it's been absolutely amazing. And it's like I told you guys last week for the podcast, my relationship with God is in a place that I never thought possible. I used to see people here and think, wow, they're super spiritual. That's kind of weird. And now I'm in a place where, like, I feel really different right now, and I can't explain it. Only the people that are closest to me, friends, family, they get it. But I want to encourage you guys, seek God long after spiritual emphasis. Just seek him all the way through. You don't need a pastor to seek God for you. You have to seek God for yourself, and God will draw you in. And as you draw near to him, he'll draw near to you. That's biblical. So
yeah.
Moving from there, and I'm talking about spiritual emphasis, that has been one of the biggest impressions that this university has left on my heart and just life. And I shared a story last week, guys. If you haven't listened to last week's podcast, a student named Daniel Lee, and Daniel, you probably won't be listening to it. Well, he goes by Dan. You're probably not listening to this, but if you are, I just want you to know, and I guess I can go ahead and retell the story. Daniel Lee came up to me during a service. It was one of the evening services. His freshman year. Still remember it. And we were doing prayer and praise and worship, and he said, hey, I believe that Jesus has called us to pray for the sick and those who need healing, and that he'll heal them. And he prayed, and guys, I'm going to tell you, I'm still sitting in the chair, but what he did next was crazy. Have I told you this story?
I don't think so. I'm listening, and
well, that's really bizarre. Okay. I would have imagined I would have shared this story, but I guess not.
Or maybe you have, and it's just I need
perhaps.
Those retelling of details to recall it.
He asked me if I would be willing to take a step of faith and try to walk, and he lifted me out of my chair with another person at my side, and they had me walking in circles. And it's like I said last week, I'm not out of the chair yet, but the fact that people are that willing to follow what Jesus says, and he did it totally normal. He wasn't weird about it, and there have been some times where things have been weird, but my point is, a miracle didn't happen in my body that night, but a miracle happened for my heart. And when I look at spiritual emphasis and the different things that I've seen and people just really getting close to God, I can't get over it. It's an amazing opportunity to hear these speakers come in and really bring a message that you hope, and this is the disheartening thing about ministry, you don't know if people are listening or not, and you have to just speak in faith and hope that people will take it. So without me rambling and going on like I do, I want to get into your thoughts. How has spiritual emphasis impacted you, whether the more recent service or in the past few ones? I know we were talking about past spiritual emphasis speakers a few days ago.
Yeah. And
there's one that I'm not going to mention the name because I feel bad, but there's one I forgot. I thought I remembered all 4, speakers, but I couldn't. So, without getting into that, how has it affected your life?
I think so like I said earlier, I have always grown up going to public school. And so coming to a university that is Christ-centered, it's a Christian school, was a different, oh my goodness.
Of course.
I know, Evangel, good news, what? It was a different atmosphere. I've never come into a class where the first day of classes, a professor prayed for us. That for me was awesome.
Awesome. Cool.
Definitely crazy. I was like, whoa, oh my goodness, is this really happening? Like, we shouldn't be doing this. But then I was like, oh yeah, Victoria, hello. You're at Christian school. That's what they do,
That's awesome.
And so that was cool to see. And I think one of the cool things too that I liked is the chapel services. And, they give you that chance to grow. And kind of like you said, throughout your time here at Evangel, and really any school, I would hope, Christian school, is you're not only preparing academically, but you're getting spiritually fed. And it's gonna, and I know you've said this, and I've heard people on campus say it, you're gonna get what you put into it.
Right.
So if you're going in and you're really like yearning for God and you want that, and you're gonna go in and you seek him full-heartedly,
right,
Evangel sets that place for you in chapel service, and Devo, oh my goodness, I just try to combine two different words, Devos and different services like that. It doesn't come to surprise me that I tried to do that. That happens all the time. But anyways, just those places, and one of those places are Spiritual Emphasis Week, and it's awesome that they do it at the beginning of the semester so you can get that kind of spark.
right,
And growing up too, I've always heard it's awesome to get that spark for God, but how do you continuously keep it lit? Keep it lit. How do you continuously have it
that's good,
going in your life,
Yeah.
And I know we've had conversations about this, and
right,
like I said, you hear it, youth pastors have probably said, how do you we're here at camp this week and you're on fire for Jesus and yahoo, but what's going to happen the day you leave camp? What's going to happen
Right.
after you're not intentionally in
Right.
those environments, And that's where it really does become a part of, your own relationship, and you're seeking for it. And so just to kind of go back to the whole Spiritual Emphasis Week, I think they're awesome and I love it. And, when students come really wanting to get something out of it and continue that relationship, that they're going to get it out of it. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I think it's awesome that they set those times where we can have those extended times to kind of get into more of a deeper conversation or whatever it is in
Right.
chapel services to pray and all those, all that extended worship and everything. That's a great thing. And personally for me, those kind of weeks have been kind of like a setup to where I start thinking, and I'm starting to ask these questions and kind of challenge my relationship with Christ, but then also sustain it, if that makes sense.
Right.
You know what I mean?
yes,
So challenge in the sense of, oh man, that was that's really hitting me, or whatever it is the topic is, like, okay, yeah, I really need to do that, and kind of challenging myself to, okay, Jesus, I don't want it to just be this week that we had these conversations.
Right.
And we, everybody's praying for each other and we're all getting excited and becoming community in one, but also like, hey, Jesus, I need to be able to know how I can keep it going throughout the semester,
Right.
throughout my life once I'm out of here, because we're going to graduate and you're not going
We
to
are.
have, unless you become a professor here or something, but you're not going to have those Spiritual Emphasis Weeks,
Right.
You're not going to have that week dedicated to trying to get you set up, if that makes sense.
it
I don't
does,
know.
it does,
Okay.
yeah, you made sense,
So yeah, but for me personally, I mean, they're great, and I've gone through like some changes in my testimony too, as far as making those just stronger relationships, or making that stronger relationship and connection. I've also gone through the opposite side where I come out like, okay, I'm questioning this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about that. I'm not questioning it in the sense of like, oh my goodness, this is,
right,
kind of contradicting what I believe. Not that kind of questioning, but kind of the good questioning that's like,
right,
it's supposed to get you engaged, like think more about your relationship.
that's right, yeah,
You're reading scriptures again and again, and you're, each time you're wondering, oh, what is this? What is that? And, there might be, I think everybody goes through a period of kind of just, I don't want to say a dry season, but kind of maybe a season where they're kind of just
a slow season,
yeah. And some people may think like, oh no, that's not true, and I mean, everybody can believe what they want to believe on that, but I think there's times where that, and I've gone through those times where I'm kind of just more in a slow season,
right,
and those times that I've come out on the other side where it's more of a faster, I don't know what you want to say to go on the opposite of that, but to just see it kind of working out in my life and seeing how, God is just showing up in those times where I'm like completely confused or like, okay, Jesus, here I am. Like, what do you want? What do you need from me? Like, what are my next steps and stuff like that can be attributed to having that sparked from Spiritual Emphasis Week. So,
cool.
Yeah, I don't know if that kind of answers. I hope that answered your question, and it's not just me rambling. But
no, it's not. And see, that's the whole thing, guys. We have to want it. And I put out a Facebook video a few days ago urging people listening, don't just leave your heart in Spiritual Emphasis Week. Take it with you. Chase after God with all of your heart, and just go. Just do it. I don't want to say anything else because I feel like if I say anything that's not actually worth any words, it's not really worth hearing, and I don't want to ruin the message that's already out in this podcast. But I just want to thank you for listening. I hope to have Victoria back in a few weeks, maybe next month, to talk about diversity and that kind of thing. I was actually going to do my capstone project this semester, but things happen. So, anyway, God bless you guys. If you see Victoria in the hallway, tell her good job. Just shake her hand and say hello. She's really, really awesome. And if you don't know her,
oh my.
Well, hopefully you'll be able to see her face on TV or something. Then you'll know for certain who she is. You'll put the name with the face, and it's all good.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah. Just stop by, say hi.
That's right. And by the way, she works at UTV. Does a great job over there. I'm over here at the radio station, so we're kind of doing some cross-broadcasting stuff. It's really cool. God bless you guys. Have a great afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you may be, whenever you're listening to this. And remember, Jesus loves you.